One of Those Days by Clare London. Well, it was obviously going to be one of those days, wasn't it? Baz stood on the pavement outside his apartment block and groaned. Hell of a thing to happen on the last day of work before Christmas, right? Looking forward to 3 glorious days off, celebrations with friends, fun, and maybe even some romantic action. And yet, here he was now, with all those plans already starting in disaster, as per usual for him. He should never have got up in the first place. He was cursed. At breakfast, the last slice of bread had been an unattractive mix of crust and mould. The milk had cheesy lumps in it. He'd had to walk to work because his train had been cancelled, 3 of them in a row, actually, and he couldn't take a cab because he'd lost his final 20 somewhere on the platform. He was late to the office, and on the day when the boss was vindictively premenstrual, for a man, that is. By lunchtime, after he'd shut the drawer of the filing cabinet on his colleague's fingers and accidentally shredded his boss's dry cleaning receipts, Baz was on report. Again. It just all seemed to happen to him. Always. At lunch, he went to the bank, but his account was mysteriously overdrawn. Maybe something to do with the new games console he bought at the weekend, but that was beside the point. His colleague, not the one whose fingers were still bleeding, shared half a tuna sandwich with him, but that repeated on him all afternoon. His PC crashed. He spilled coffee down his legs so it looked as if he'd peed himself. The vending machine ate the only coin he found at the bottom of his desk drawer and then left his soda still hanging miraculously from its perch. When Baz kicked the machine in frustration, half the sole of his boot fell off. Yeah, always. He walked all the way home at the end of the day, crossing the road to his block in eventual safety, despite 2 trucks, a bicycle, and a hooded kid on a skateboard attempting to smash him. He wondered if he could borrow some milk and eggs off one of his neighbours to make an omelette. The long bath he'd been looking forward to was going to be tepid because the boiler in the block had broken down 2 days ago. But he would lie in it regardless and bemoan his miserable new life in the city. Then he'd read the free local newspaper from last week that the dog downstairs had probably pissed on at some stage, and pretend he could afford to go to one of the clubs or buy new clothes or date one of the cute boys at the supermarket. And that was when he dropped his keys. Shocked, he grabbed out at them as they fell, but they tumbled to the ground, then through a slit in the drain cover. No. He bent down to peer through the tiny opening and could see them shining in the gutter. He knelt on the muddy pavement for a while, trying to wriggle his fingers through and grab them, but without any luck. And so he groaned aloud. And why not? He was cold, tired, hungry, irritable, and, to add insult to injury, locked out for the night. How much worse could things get? It started to rain. Yes, it was definitely one of those days. Baz stood and threw his head back, letting the raindrops trickle down his throat and under the collar of his shirt. Rain was seeping into his ruined boot too. Maybe he could drown himself in it. Maybe he should have let the skateboard swipe his legs out from under him so he fell under the truck. Maybe he could go back to work and ask the vending machine to eat him too. He started to laugh, letting the whooping fits take over. At that point, he realised there was someone watching him. A tall, slim guy with very dark hair and amused blue eyes. He stood on the steps of Baz's apartment block, as if he'd just come out and was temporarily sheltering from the rain under the porch. He had a rolled-up magazine under his arm and a heavy-looking leather bag in his hand. He looked down at Baz's trousers, now covered in both mud and stale coffee, then back up to his face. "Are you okay?" he asked. There's a loaded question, if ever I heard one. Baz wondered whether to tell the man he was an escaped lunatic who belched tuna and attacked vending machines, but he decided against ruining his day any further. And besides, the guy was gorgeous, drop dead, delicious. Look how well my day is going, you loser. Gorgeous. Well, thanks. Baz aimed his simmering hatred at some unknown deity above. Give me the day from hell, then dangle a whole bucketful of cuteness in front of me when I look like something the cat dragged in, then spat out again. I'm fine, he said. He could feel rain running down the back of his neck, and his hair clumped in spikes over his eyebrows. Like his look would make the cover of any men's magazine, let alone the one this hunk would be reading. Well, no, actually, he confessed, I'm not fine, because I'm locked out. My keys are down there. He gestured at the ground. He could hear rainwater gushing under the drain cover, probably washing his keys out to sea by now. But that's my problem, not yours. The whole day's been full of them. I've had plenty of practice today in life sucking. The dark-haired guy nodded sympathetically. I've had days like that, he said. I've got a key to the block. Shall I let you back in? Then I've got a magnet in my toolkit. We can fish your keys out, no problem. You're sent from the unknown deity? Baz was a little dazed at the man's calm and obvious preparedness. Mr. Gorgeous and Helpful with It laughed. I doubt it. I'm the plumber, been to fix the boiler. I was just bringing the rest of my toolkit back out to the van. He stared at Baz and flushed, very slightly and very attractively. His gaze may have lingered on Baz's shirt, clinging wetly to his torso. You mean I can get back into my apartment, Baz said. I can have a hot bath at last. He was trying out how it felt for things to go right. It was bloody odd, but pleasantly so. He remembered to smile at his saviour at last. I'm pleased, no, very pleased to meet you. Look, the gorgeous and I fix boilers too guy was still a little flushed. He was looking Baz up and down, all the way from his filthy trousers to the clumps of wet hair around his neck. The looking suspiciously like I'm ogling you guy said, this is going to sound pretty forward, but after you dry off and get changed, how about getting some food? This job took longer than I thought, and my office is closed now for the day, so I've got the use of the van for the evening. I was just going to go into town, but I don't know my way around that well. And I've got these Christmas discount vouchers for a free all-you-can-eat meal. Thanks, thought Baz again, aiming it to the unknown deity, but without the sarcasm this time. That'd be great, he said, and started to laugh again. Really wonderful. I'd like that. Great. Mr. Gorgeous, and I looked flatteringly relieved, smiled broadly. Your laugh. He paused. Excuse me saying so, but it's great too. He turned to unlock the door, and Baz bounded up the steps to join him. He turned back suddenly, just as Baz came nose to nose with him. They both leant back in surprise. They both flushed this time. Everything seems to have gone wrong for you today, but you're still laughing, the guy said. Baz grinned. The gorgeous, and maybe I think you are too, guy grinned back. Yeah, said Baz, but I guess it's just one of those days.